I wanted to start off by asking you about the war in Ukraine, because despite the flurry of diplomacy that we have seen in recent weeks, just at the weekend we saw a serious aerial attack on Ukraine by Moscow. In your mind, how close are we to an end here?
There's no end in sight. We need to be very clear about that. There might have been some hopes in Washington that you can reach a ceasefire in a few days' time. This is not the case. For many years, Putin has shown to the world that he is adamant in pursuing his military invasion in Ukraine. And that's why it's so important to continue the delivery of arms to Ukraine. As long as Putin thinks that he might prevail militarily, he will continue his aggression against Ukraine. And we need to stop this by delivering weapons to Ukraine.
In terms of the US position and Donald Trump, we've seen some mixed signals, but he seems to be indicating that the war in Ukraine is not the US war to fight, that it is Europe, the EU's problem. Now, of course, Germany is the biggest EU nation. There's been major changes we've been hearing in terms of defence spending and defence policy as well. But if the US does pull away, whether that is from a military aid or an intelligence sharing perspective, how much does that force Ukraine back, particularly in the near term, as the build-up in defence takes time?
Yes, indeed. And in the short term, this would be highly detrimental to Ukrainian defense efforts. And it would also send a very bad signal to Putin, because for the first time after World War II, it would split European security from American security interests. And this would weaken America's status as a superpower, and would also show to other allies in other regions of the world, for example in the Indo-Pacific, that America turns away from its commitments to its allies.
Do you actually see that happening? How would you characterize the transatlantic relationship?
Over the last few weeks it has become stronger, because the assessment of the situation in Ukraine is much more shared between the US government and European partners than at the beginning of Trump's second term. So I'm rather confident, because Trump has understood that it's not as easy to get Putin to the negotiation table as he thought it was. And that opens up new opportunities for closer cooperation between European allies and the Trump administration on the Ukrainian file.
Are you still optimistic here?
I'm still optimistic, and we've seen a rock-solid commitment by the US government to Article 5, to NATO, to European security. We've seen no withdrawal of US troops from Europe so far, and that shows that the American administration understands that its security is linked to European security.
On Germany's front, I understand it is considering potentially reintroducing conscription, and that it is open to spending up to 5% of its GDP on defence, which is a historic shift. Do you think that there is public and political support for such a change of this scale?
Public support is growing, because more and more people in Germany and Europe understand the nature of the Russian threat. This is not only directed at Ukraine, but at European security as a whole. And that's why we want to increase step by step our defense spending. We amended our constitution to promote this. And we have also some personal problems, meaning that the armed forces in Germany are understaffed. And that's why we want to attract more volunteers. But there's also the option on the table to reintroduce a certain kind of draft along certain criteria. But first we concentrate on rendering the armed forces more attractive for those who want to serve on a voluntary basis.